Would I be the a-hole if I don't share the inheritance that I received from a friend with her daughter? I, female 32, recently came into an inheritance when my neighbor and close friend, Valerie, female 68, died. I met Valerie when I moved into my condo in 2018, and she became my next-door neighbor. Our places are on the top floor and have almost connecting balconies. We used to spend every Saturday morning outside, taking care of our plant babies and chatting. I had learned that Valerie had been a widow since she was 55. I got the impression that she had married young and never had a true chance to learn who she was, until after her husband had died. I had always thought that Valerie was alone in the world. Turns out, Valerie had had one child, a daughter, Sam, female 44. However, they had been estranged since the early 2000s. The story that Valerie told me was that Sam had come out as gay when she was just out of high school. That did not sit well with her husband, Gary. He told Sam that she was no longer his daughter and kicked her out, telling her to never contact them or come home again. The whole situation broke Valerie's heart, and it was her biggest regret in life. She told me that she had always wished she had tried to fight for Sam, but in the moment, she was so shocked that she watched the whole thing happen without saying a word. When I first heard the story, Valerie told me that she hadn't reached out because she didn't know how to even try. So I did some internet sleuthing and found Sam on Facebook. It turns out that Sam had managed to build a good life for herself. I helped Valerie draft a heartfelt message to Sam. Valerie apologized for everything and told Sam how much her perspectives had changed over the years. Valerie also asked if they could try to build a new relationship. We sent the message and saw that Sam had seen and maybe read the message, but Sam never responded. About a month ago, I got home from work to find that Valerie had passed away on her balcony. She had suffered an embolism. I sent the link to her obituary and memorial page to Sam, but I didn't see her at the funeral. There was a lawyer handling all of Valerie's affairs. I thought that I would simply grieve the loss of my friend and eventually have a new neighbor. I never expected to be the only person Valerie left in her will, let alone to have been left everything. A few days ago, Sam messaged me. She was upset and demanded that I give her Valerie's things, claiming that I took advantage of an old widow. I was upset when I first read Sam's message and thought, who does she think she is? She hasn't spoken to Valerie in literal decades and never responded when Valerie tried to reach out. Valerie is her mother, and that entitles her to Valerie's stuff? Now I wonder if I should do something for Sam. I go back and forth on whether Valerie would want me to. Valerie knew where Sam was, so she could have included Sam somehow. The lawyer I talked to said that the inheritance is completely mine and that Sam has no claim, but should I give Sam something? Now for the top comments. There are always three sides to every story. Side A, side B, and the truth in the middle. You don't really know what happened between the two of them, so I'd be very careful about vilifying anyone. I had a friend who was kicked out and their mom cut contact because they came out as gay. Their mom acted like their child was the one who abandoned and mistreated them and played the victim to anyone who would listen. It's not always so simple when family doesn't come around. I don't think you need to give up any cash, but I would offer her pictures and mementos from the house that she may like. Not everything, mind you, but a few things that might remind her of her mom, or pictures that she'd like, if there are any. Not the a-hole. I like this idea. In addition, I would not engage directly with Sam. Let the lawyer handle all communication. Not the a-hole. I found myself in a similar situation years ago. My then partner of 12 years took his own life. Unbeknownst to me, I was made his beneficiary to a small insurance settlement. I immediately reached out to his family to get info on his two minor daughters. I was going to give them both some money for college. Without knowing why I was contacting his family, the mother and his sister, they were horrible to me. They called me every name in the book. They actually had a memorial service for him and forgot to tell me. Never mind that I supported this man and his daughters financially for years. After they hung up on me for the 90th time, I'd had enough. I kept every penny, and I still don't feel bad. So you took care of his daughters for years but didn't have any information about them? I think there is something missing in this story. I mean, screw those people, but something isn't being said here. It's possible she never got custody of them, so when he died, his minor kids couldn't live with her anymore. Semi-similar, but I knew a guy who raised 2 kids from infants to 10 and 11, both girls. Well, his girlfriend broke up with him, and he had no legal recourse because, legally, he was just some dude. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not inviting my sister's new stepkids to my in-laws' lake house? My sister is in her mid-30s, and I'm almost 30, ripped to my 20s. She's always been a handful and can be difficult. She officially got divorced a year ago, but was separated for much longer. She's been with this guy named Rick for a while. He has 3 kids with 3 different moms. The 2 older kids are teens. The most recent child, a baby, happened while he was dating my sister when he cheated on her. She decided to stay with him, and now she's pregnant with his 4th child, making her his 4th baby mama. She already has 2 kids with her now ex-husband. So, lots of kids. I basically told her, I'm not thrilled that you stayed with the guy who cheated on you, but it's your life. On to the issue. My in-laws are wealthy and have multiple properties. Their newest one is a lake house. That's tons of fun and in a nice area. Last year, my sister and my niece and nephew came, and it was a great time. My plan is to go every year, and I was hoping my niece and nephew would get to go each year. Now that my sister is with this guy, she thought everyone would get an invite. My issue isn't with the kids, but I don't know Rick or any of his other kids. I haven't met them once, so it's odd to me to invite them. Plus, I don't know the other moms. I just think there's too much risk involved in inviting minors my husband and I don't even know. The other moms could sue if someone gets hurt for all I know. The lake house has jet skis, water trampolines, boating, tubing, water slides, etc., which could cause injury. Just for some context, Rick was on track to be a pro athlete when these other moms were around, so I'm already assuming they were gold diggers after money. Rick is definitely not wealthy by any means, given the child support and supporting all these kids with his career. Also, it's not our house. My in-laws are kind enough to allow me to invite my sister, my niece, and my nephew, but adding 4 extra people is a little much in my opinion. I was at my niece and nephew's births, and they know my husband and in-laws really well, so I think it's an entirely different situation. I told my sister today that she, my niece, and my nephew are invited, but not everyone else. My sister's response was that they won't be going because they're one unit, and it all needs to be fair. It's so unfortunate because my niece and nephew will now be missing out. So, am I the a-hole in this situation? My husband said no as well, so it's not just me. Your sister's new stepkids are basically Pokemon at this point. Gotta catch them all. But in all seriousness, it's important to prioritize your own comfort and safety when it comes to inviting strangers into someone else's property. Your sister may be upset, but ultimately it's not your responsibility to accommodate her and her new partner's blended family. You're not the a-hole in this situation. I'm glad I'm not the only one who found this hilarious. It's a wild family dynamic, and the last thing you need is to turn a fun trip into a custody debate. Not your circus, not your monkeys. Sorry for sis, but she made her shared bed. I just feel so bad for my niece and nephew. They'll have to share absolutely everything now, even bedrooms, because they're only able to afford a 3-bedroom townhouse. All the kids are part-time though, but still. Nope, you're not the a-hole. You make very valid points. I also see her point of view. In her mind, they are a package deal, so it is ultimately her choice to either let your nibblings come to the lake house or not. I wonder, do the other moms invite your nibblings to outings with the stepkids, and would she trust them to go? I have a feeling the answer would be no, so she shouldn't be upset with you either. I know so little about the other kids that I couldn't even answer that question, unfortunately. Your only answer at this point should be, I invited you and your kids because my in-laws know you. I am not inviting people they've never met into their home. And stop. Discussing liabilities and baby mamas, while valid, just gives your sister far too much ammo to look for a loophole to try and force you into agreeing. I never mentioned that other stuff to her. It's just something my husband and I discussed. I only said because I don't know them. My niece, nephew, and you are the only invited. Next story. Am I the a-hole for making my husband's family leave? after they showed up with an extra guest? My husband, 36 male, and I, 34 female, recently hosted a small, intimate dinner at our home for his family. We carefully planned everything: seating arrangements, food, and even table settings, since it was meant to be a cozy evening with just close family. We invited 8 people: his parents, siblings, and 1 cousin. I took extra care with the menu because I have severe food allergies to nuts and shellfish. I cooked everything myself to avoid cross-contamination, and my husband helped plan the dishes accordingly. Since it was a sit-down dinner with a pre-planned meal, it wasn't the type of gathering where you could just add another plate last minute. An hour before dinner, my mother-in-law texted me, saying she was bringing my husband's aunt, her sister, because she was in town and had nowhere else to go. I was immediately uncomfortable. This aunt has mocked my allergies before, saying she doesn't believe in all that nonsense, and even once tried to convince me to just take a bite of a dish containing nuts because she thought I was exaggerating. I texted mother-in-law back, politely but firmly, saying, "I'm so sorry, but we don't have extra seating or enough food planned for another guest. I hope you understand." She didn't respond. Instead, she just showed up with the aunt anyway. When I opened the door and saw her standing there, I felt my stomach drop. Mother-in-law was all smiles, acting like nothing was wrong, and said, "It's just one more person. We'll squeeze in." I reminded her that we didn't have enough food, and more importantly, that I didn't feel comfortable having someone at my dinner table who had disrespected my food allergies. My husband's aunt laughed and said, "Oh, don't worry, I won't poison you," in a sarcastic tone. She then turned to my husband and said, "Is she always this uptight?" At that moment, something inside me snapped. This wasn't just about the extra guest. It was about the complete disrespect for my boundaries and health. I turned to my mother-in-law and said, "I told you we didn't have room for another person, and yet you still showed up. I don't appreciate being ignored in my own home. If you can't respect that, you're welcome to leave." Silence. Then mother-in-law's face turned red and she said, "Are you seriously kicking us out over one extra plate? This is beyond rude." My husband's siblings jumped in, calling me dramatic and ungracious, saying I could have made something extra or just dealt with it. But I stood my ground. I told them that I wasn't okay with my boundaries being ignored, and if they couldn't accept that, they didn't have to stay. At that point, my mother-in-law scoffed, grabbed her purse, and stormed out. The rest of the family followed, grumbling about how I ruined dinner over something so small. My husband didn't say much during the argument, but after they left, he told me he understood my frustration, but thought I could have handled it more tactfully instead of outright telling them to leave. Now his family is furious with me, saying I was cold, inhospitable, and made a scene over something trivial. Mother-in-law even called my husband later, saying she was hurt that we chose to humiliate her over something so minor. My husband still supports me, but he also admitted he wishes I had handled it differently to avoid this huge rift. So, am I the a-hole for refusing to accommodate an unexpected guest and making them leave when they ignored my clear boundaries? Now for the top comments. The issue wasn't the additional plate. The issue is someone who disrespects you doesn't get to be a guest in your home. Not the a-hole. You told mother-in-law no and she ignored it. The aunt was way out of line with her remark. At least the trash took itself out. No more dinner parties for those who want you to lay down and be walked all over. She came in with both bowling barrels blazing as soon as you answered the door. They planned this, and I'd never invite them again. Ask your husband exactly what way he would have handled it differently. I mean, exact words. Then ask him why he didn't say any of that or anything at all while you were being insulted by his witch of an aunt. I would avoid her forever. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. If your husband wished that you handled it differently, he could have stood up for you then and there. So why didn't he? That is a pretty good point that I didn't think of and have not discussed with him yet. I'll discuss this with him today. Thanks. I'd have slapped a can of Alpo on a plate and called it handled myself. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to pay for my girlfriend's friend's meal? So my girlfriend, 27 female, and I, 28 male, went out to dinner last night. It was supposed to be just us. But at the last minute, she asked if her friend, let's call her Sarah, could join. I said sure, no problem. Dinner was nice. We all had a good time, and when the bill came, I put down my card to cover my girlfriend and me. But then Sarah just sat there, not reaching for her wallet. My girlfriend looked at me and casually said, "Oh babe, can you cover Sarah's too?" I was caught off guard. Sarah had ordered a ton, appetizers, drinks, dessert, and her portion was almost as much as ours combined. I hesitated and said, I wasn't really planning on that." My girlfriend looked embarrassed and mumbled, "It's just easier if you do." Sarah stayed quiet, but also didn't offer to pay for herself. I ended up paying because I didn't want to cause a scene, but I was annoyed. Later, I told my girlfriend that I didn't appreciate being put on the spot like that. She got defensive, saying I was being stingy and that it's just one meal. I argued that it wasn't about the money. It was about being expected to pay without being asked beforehand. Now she's upset, and I feel like I might have overreacted. Am I the a-hole? You did not overreact. Your girlfriend invited Sarah without telling you beforehand, and then manipulated you and put you on the spot, which was a really rude thing to do. She owes you a huge apology and the money for her friend's meal. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Don't get fooled again. She's an entitled woman who is trying to take advantage of you. Know that. She owes you an apology, and I seriously would rethink keeping this relationship going. The lack of respect is beyond me. Not the a-hole. It's the beginning. Now she knows she can do what she wants with you. She just have to make you feel guilty and you will pay. Paying for her is one thing, but for her friends, she is using you like an ATM. Yeah, that's what's bothering me. I don't want this to become a pattern. Why doesn't she pay you back for her friend's meal and drinks? If she complains, tell her to stop being stingy. She's the one who invited her. If she refuses to pay, you know what she's after.